Hello, everyone. This is Claudiu Murgan, the host of the Spiritual Inspire Show. And my guest today is Chelsea Schreiner. Chelsea is a virtual wellness consultant and a functional medicine practitioner with 10 years experience in naturopathic medicine. Her own health challenges led her to study multiple modalities, both in natural medicine and energy work. Chelsea is the creator of Joyful Body Method, which uses functional medicine and a step-by-step customized approach to address physical and energetic blocks while promoting detox on a cellular, emotional, and energetic level. In Chelsea's new program, Joyful Body Connection, she focuses on dissolving energetic and physical blocks to her clients' most confusing symptoms, solely using her clinical experience and intuitive gifts. Chelsea loves to work with people who are ready to dig deeper and are open to the possibility that they can become an energized, hormonally balanced, and joyful version of themselves. You can find more about Chelsea's program and if they are a fit for you at joyfulbodymethod.com. Chelsea, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you so much.
And, full disclosure, my entire family was your patient while we live in Canada. And at one point during our conversation, you mentioned that you have certain energetic sensibilities. When exactly did you realize that you are different and how these capabilities help you in choosing this path?
Yeah, so I had multiple experiences as a child that kind of tipped me off to the fact that people may not be seeing what I was seeing. Or sensing. But probably the biggest one that I can remember really fully in my body is what I call when I merged with a butterfly. So I was about 9 years old. And I used to play outside in nature a lot. And we lived in an area in Muskoka, Ontario, in Canada. And there was basically nothing around us. All I had was nature. So I observed nature and was in nature a lot. So one of those days I was looking and there was like a movement that caught my eye, and it was a little butterfly and it looked like it was damaged or something, injured, and some ants were carrying it away. And I got panicked. I said, I have to rescue this thing. Like, it's still moving. It's trying to fly and get away. So I picked it up, I put it onto a log, and I told my brother, okay, go get some honey, because I couldn't think of anything else that like a butterfly would eat. And so I sent him away. And as I was watching it, I don't know even how it happened, but all of a sudden everything sort of blurred and I just became like one with this butterfly. Like, I just merged with it. And I just saw this image or projection of the earth. And I saw all these webs and lines connecting all these different animals and people. And I saw these images of different people in different cultures. And I felt like the pulse of the earth. It was just this very profound experience, and it felt like immediate and then immediately gone. It was weird in time, space. Like, it just was such an odd happening. And it really tipped me off to the feeling that, okay, something bigger is going on here. We're all connected in one way. And that's when I really felt like I was here to do something bigger, that I was here to offer something. I didn't know what, but yeah, something.
And did you feel maybe at that time or later on that it was a thank you? That sensation was a thank you from the butterfly or from a much higher energy being?
Yeah, it's funny because I don't often talk about that experience because I still haven't even fully processed it, to be honest. Like, I've tuned into the feeling, like, should I have rescued it? Shouldn't I have not? And I did feel like I was meant to have that experience and rescue it. And I should mention also that a few hours later, I had come out because I had to come in and have dinner, and the butterfly disappeared. It was nowhere to be seen. So it was just a really interesting experience. But yeah, I feel like there was some gift that it gave me, of course. But I'm even still processing that, because I feel like there's a whole another level of what I'm to do in service that I haven't even tapped into yet. I'm just focusing on where I am right now, but I feel like that will be where the answer lies for sure.
Yes, and you said that everything is connected, everything is energy. So let's talk about the real causes of physical symptoms.
Yeah, so basically in my previous training, so I was a naturopathic doctor for about 10 years, but previous to that, my own experiences really a path of looking deeper even than the physical, because what may help what I would have said normal people at that time, physical medication or a physical supplement even, it wouldn't really work for me. It wouldn't really stick. It wouldn't hold. It wouldn't create resolution. So I ended up having a wonderful opportunity to work with a medical doctor turned naturopath that really helped a lot of my family members. And he did all energetic, intuitive work. And I learned through him that things aren't always what we think they are. Like there's something deeper going on. And so that's what I thought a naturopathic doctor was, like using intuition, just your sense of things, using what's called electrodermal screening, which is testing the electrical impulse on your finger and looking for a resistance reaction, kind of like muscle testing, if people know that. So that was what my whole experience was based upon. And that's where my healing actually came from. When I went into naturopathic college, however, the first week I sat down and they were talking about, okay, we're going to learn how to do blood draws and all these different types of therapies. And I just kind of looked around and looked to see if anyone else was as shocked as I was. And I thought I must be in the wrong place. Like I thought I was doing something totally different. But it gave me a foundation and a different perspective for sure. But I realized also the teaching of what I had through my personal experience was that we really have to focus on the environment of the body, like the internal environment, which is called the terrain. And that was completely removed from the naturopathic education system, really. And it was more geared towards like this, what's called green allopath. So essentially, instead of giving like a pharmaceutical medication for an issue, you're giving a natural supplement that does something similar. So it's just swapping out, one thing for another, but it's not actually looking fully and deeply, truly at what the cause was, in my perspective, anyway.
Yeah, and I think even the the doctors, I mean, those who want to become doctors, they sign up for one thing, and over the next 4 or 5 years, they understand or they realize that it's totally different than maybe what they expected, and they don't do nutrition. This is my understanding. They don't do anything natural. It's all based on chemical medication, and it's sad that they don't have this opening to this type of teachings and learning, and they just go with the flow and they don't ask questions because I think they are afraid they're going to be kicked out of the medical school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And that's sort of the same thing that I found having that more energetic experience and then going into the naturopathic system was it was quite conventionally based, meaning that we didn't learn about that terrain theory. Even what's happening now, we believe that there's this, specific germ that's going around. That's the problem. When really, if you look at it from like what I call the old school naturopathic views, it really depends on how what your body's health is. So if you have a pile of garbage sitting out, there's going to be flies on it. But if you take the garbage away, there's not going to be flies. So it really, you have to clean up that environment, because that's going to determine whether you're affected by, said germ or whatever or not. And even in my energetic experience, so that same medical doctor that I had the healing experience with, I had the opportunity to work with him and his daughter as a naturopathic doctor after I graduated. So I was able to test these kind of theories. And I figured out when you energetically test a ton of people, basically Lyme disease, it's a very controversial type of illness. So in conventional medical doctor, they may not even believe it exists. A naturopath probably believe it exists, but that it's, a thing to kill, right? There's a Borrelia bacteria, you kill that and then you're good. Well, from the energetic side of things, when I tested people, I don't think I had one client who didn't test positive, meaning they had an issue with that Lyme disease bacteria. Everybody I tested had an issue with it or a related type of bacteria, but not everybody had symptoms. So it really comes down to, okay, so why is that happening? If everybody has this, at least energetically in their system, but not everybody's having the expression of it, then there must be something else to the picture.
Yes, and I think it's exactly what's happening with the this new virus, which I'm not going to name right now. People are asymptomatic. I mean, they might carry the virus, but they have no symptoms. And they think, and with other diseases, cancer or anything else, they don't have any symptoms, some of them, and they think they're okay. But unless they go deeper and analyze their bodies and do much more testing, they will then find out what's going on, and they can take some measures, some action.
Yeah, exactly. And even to the virus point, there's some interesting theories out there that, what even is a virus? There's some theories that it's actually a particle that our body produces. And that kind of ties back into what's called terrain theory, which was a theory way back when that kind of got beat out by germ theory, which is the current theory of like there's a microbe, a bacteria or virus or whatever, you kill it, then you get rid of the disease. But that terrain theory, the deepest levels of that are really your body has the particles within it to create those kind of microbe-like things. And it depends on the pH, the oxygen level of the body, like all these other aspects that turn it into a more like aggressive or pathogenic issue. But you can also turn back the clock by changing that terrain and make it less pathogenic or less of an issue. So it's really interesting when you start to look at things from a really truly holistic perspective. And not only that, but a lot of my experiences in actual frequencies. So I would discern through intuitive gifts the frequency of like a certain bacteria or something that someone was dealing with. Because there's various machines and technology out there that you can actually like input a certain number frequency, and you can set that frequency through wires and like treat the body with that basically, or it's a therapy. So I would discern often, what was the required number or frequency. And I started playing around with frequencies and seeing where they are on a scale. And there's a book, Power versus Force, that had a whole list of, frequencies and what level they're at. And it's based on emotions too, right? So I started noticing, oh, this certain bacteria actually resonates in the same energy field as like shame or guilt. And I started figuring out patterns of how certain bacteria actually had these resonances with certain emotions. Because what I would find is that when I would put someone on a machine for like eliminating a certain bacteria or something, it could come back. So I started looking deeper into that. Okay, why is it coming back? Again, like back to the garbage analogy, there has to be something there that's attracting this thing. So how do we remove that garbage? And at some levels, it was emotions that were attracting that. Like if you're not shifting some guilt or blame in the body, there's certain things that resonate with that and really like call that home. And it's going to be hard to get rid of them if you keep the garbage around. Okay?
Yes, and how do you apply these frequencies?
So when I was doing in the past, it was through a machine. So I would figure out intuitively figure out what number I need to punch in to eliminate that. And then I would punch it into the machine. So I was using a Rife machine at one point. I was using a bioresonance therapy, a couple different types of bioresonance therapies. Some people would use the radionics machines, and I would help them figure out what frequencies they need. So there's so many different types out there, but it's the same sort of principle that you're basically canceling out the frequency with another frequency so that it eliminates it in the body.
Yeah. Let's move on to something else right now. I mean, you recently decided not to renew your medical license. Why?
Yeah, so that was a big journey, and it started, well, right back to that first week of being in naturopathic college and not knowing what I was actually getting into. And then even the first month, I remember sitting in class, and the exact machines that I had been healed with, like electrodermal screening and bioresonance therapies that have really helped me to that point. There was a debate in our research class, and there was a bunch of students, and they got split into pro versus con. And basically, the conclusion of the debate was that those types of machines were basically quackery and they weren't helpful at all. And so I just shrunk in my seat and I thought, okay, I'm definitely like found myself interesting where I thought this was going to be like, oh, hey, these are awesome modalities to use. No, quite the opposite. So I already knew I was kind of outside of the standard thinking, even in my first year of college. And then as I got out, I did it was 2013, I believe, I did this modality called mesotherapy. And it's the injection of homeopathics under the skin. And it was for pain management I was using it for. So I would have patients at the time with 10 out of 10 intensity, like severe pain. They couldn't take medications for whatever reason. In about 3 to 4 visits, they could be 0 out of 10 pain, like completely resolved, or 3 or 4. In other words, it was so helpful to them. Around 2015, when naturopaths in Ontario got the ability to say doctor in front of their name, that came with a whole bunch of regulations. So that was one of the modalities that got scrapped. And I thought, okay, this is something that's really helpful, like very clearly helpful. And yet it's getting thrown out just because we're under this new regulation and the health minister, says, no, you can't do that. So I started to get even more skeptical about, okay, what direction are we going in? And the regulations just kept getting more restrictive. Even a few weeks ago, a friend of mine who's still licensed sent me an email saying, there's 2 more tests that have revoked and we can't do those. And I just thought, it's so sad that the more educated and the more well-versed you are, the more set up you are to help people, the more restrictions there are and the less freedom there is. Plus, with my intuitive gifts, I didn't feel like I could fully express myself in that. Feel like an environment for me, really, if that was the approach that they were taking. So,
yeah, it's just mind-boggling how much I can say corruption, because there is no nice way to put it at that level in the medical field in these associations. And again, I have nothing to lose, no license to lose, that I can bash them because I see it all over the place. And recently I posted a video on YouTube where eminent doctor again presented in front of a commission tens of or hundreds of documents that I gave you this USB with hundreds of documents proven to prove that these methods, healing methods are working, and they've been working for 20, 30 years, and there are peer-reviewed documents and papers there. Please read them and don't believe what the mass media is telling you, because they are lying. That video was removed in like 5 or 10 minutes. So the truth, medical truth these days is not going through because there is so much corruption at that level of medical associations. And I think they are being forced to apply all these measures by their chiefs and managers and whatever they have.
Yeah, it's the biggest shift that I saw was as soon as you get that doctor title, like as soon as we became regulated at that time when I was an ND. It just, something shifted. And it was like the strings were handed over, and there was some sort of, it just felt to me like there was, yeah, I just saw like puppet strings, like there's some sort of control higher up that's happening here. And energetically, I just didn't feel aligned with that. Because I know, same thing. If I can't do that mesotherapy modality that is literally changing people's lives, then what is the aim, or what is the goal? So yeah.
And I see there is no cohesion between doctors. They are right now, the forces in place have been able to break them apart. And some doctors, especially those with experience and 30-40 years of practice, come forward, they put their reputation on the line, and they are not, no one is listening to them. They listen to younger doctors, which have everything, or they, their career are being pushed forward with promises if they're going to say this and that. And we are not allowed to listen to both sides of the same coin. It's just one side. It's like, we have to listen to these guys that they know everything, and we are stupid, and we cannot make our mind by reading or listening to a well-known doctor. And some of them are PhD, some of them are Nobel Prize winners. That guy, Michael Eden, I think he was former VP at Pfizer. So if we don't listen to these guys, then who are going to listen to and trust?
Yeah, I often say, like, those who have the most to lose and are speaking out, those are probably the ones that you want to be at least lending a bit of an ear to, not the ones who have everything to gain, right? Like that's the discernment piece, and that's what it's my secret, not so secret goal of working with clients, is to get them back to discerning for themselves what is right, and connecting with their intuition, because that is kind of a lost art these days. I find a lot of people, even in the health and wellness field, they'll latch on to someone who they see as a guru and just follow all of what they say. And really, it could be the healthiest thing for 90 other people, but for you, it may not be. And it's really a gift to be able to discern that for yourself. That's what I see as the long-term goal for everyone that I work with. I think it would be so different if we all accepted that, how bio-individual we are, right?
Yes, and I think medical tyranny is here to stay for a while. I mean, I see it in all these restrictions. You got the job, you can live your life still with some restrictions. But if you didn't get it, then you are ostracized and you are not part of the society. And that's not right. That's just a false premise. And I think we're going to have to push back on that as much as possible, as many of us as possible.
Yeah, and I think that because it's kind of gotten to that point in a lot of places, I think that's what was necessary to wake people up to this, is the level of intensity of it. Because when it's clearly a discrimination or a segregation around a medical choice, that's when people can start to say, wait a minute, I can do what's good for me, but I shouldn't really be having control over others. So some people are starting to kind of see it more clearly that way. Because really it should be about medical choice and not any pushing coercion tactics. And as soon as it is, I just posted a quick video on this the other day. That's not your intuition speaking, right? That's not the higher power connection aspect. That's something else. That's power over those types of things. That's not for you. That's not from you. That's not connected to you. That's control. So helping people discern what that is. I mean, that's what we're in right now on a collective level. Is, do you listen to yourself and your own wisdom, or do you go with whatever the pushy control fear propaganda is? And it's really a choice.
Yes, and I expect people to be smart. So, and we use some logic. So when you hear that the chief medical officer of Ontario comes, at a press conference And she says on a hot mic that she doesn't know what's written on those papers because someone else is written it for her, and if she just read it, then you should question the sanity of that person. You should question the legitimacy of that person. How can you trust someone who doesn't know what she reads, doesn't question the writing on the paper in front of her? That's quite disturbing.
Yeah, it is, but it's cognitive dissonance at its best. Change is challenging. We're literally wired not to change because change is scary. Change is the unknown. Even if it's uncomfortable, at least you're safe if you kind of know what to expect. So whether it's good for you or not, doesn't matter to a lot of people because it's just that's what feels safe because it's what they've known. So if you start challenging everything you've built your life on, all the belief systems, that's a whole, tower of cards that's got to fall. And that can be a really painful process. And not many people are willing to step through that and into that. That's really what I find it comes down to.
Yes, indeed. There are so many changes upon us, and we have to be fluid and have to adapt. And yes, we did that as a family recently, and at this point we are fine, and we enjoy the new life. We'll see what the next future will have for us in store, but for now we are enjoying it, and we like to think outside the box or create our own box of thinking, and don't go with the crowd. Just go against it, just because it's like in financial world when everyone sells, you buy. When everyone else buys, you sell. So far that point of view proved right for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and exactly that. I'm still here, and I ask almost every day, okay, is it time to go yet? I'd really like to get out of here, but it hasn't come. And I know over my years and years of experience with using my own intuition that if I'm following my intuition, I am like gifted beyond gifted with things I wouldn't have even dreamt up myself. But if I go with my logic or fear in any aspect, I'm just creating more obstacles for myself. So yeah, we're on the same train of thought, but we're in different paths right now with our locations and such. So, but that's all choice.
Chelsea, I'd like to ask you, do you have a spiritual daily practice?
I do. I connect all the time. I don't have a specific like ritual or routine that I do, but I'm constantly I use the word God now. I had a lot of religious programming, so I wouldn't use the word God before. I'd use universe or divine or source, which all are fine in my opinion. It's whatever works for you. But I connect every day. Thank you, God, or thank you, source. When I wake up, when I go to sleep, if I'm, out for a little run in the morning and I see the sun looking just gorgeously brilliant, I stop for a moment and just take it in. I really try my best to put moments of presence into my day, and lots of gratitude. And that's when I find that I'm in flow because you're most open, your heart's most open, your third eye's most open. You're just energetically open to seeing and receiving messages and gifts. When you're connecting like that versus, oh, I'm going to charge through my day. And then for like the last 10 minutes, I'm going to like pray or meditate or whatever. I really try and make it part of my lifestyle. And that is life-changing for me.
Yeah, and that's important because most of my viewers, or some of my viewers, let's say, might not have the time or the patience to meditate, but just doing walking meditation, or as you said, being grateful for everything the new day offers and God offers to us and our family and friends. That's another way to to open up and be in sync with the divinity and God. That's another easier way to do it.
Yeah, I argue that it's easier, but it's also more powerful too, because you're not, okay, I can't connect with you right now because I have to wait till I have time to do it. Even just 10 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever it is, just sprinkling that throughout the day. I find that really helpful. And honestly, where a lot of my clients get a huge transformation is around eating. because a lot of people have been taught just to, rush through, to not actually make their meals. And the whole process of eating is actually a really sacred experience. And it's one that we should be really grateful for. So when approaching eating, I talk about how you eat as being even more important than what at times. So moment of gratitude that, wow, I get to experience this wonderful meal and I get to be with these people around me, and just having that gratitude, it shifts your entire body and really connects with the physical, because through the vagus nerve, which is related to your digestion as well, that's the connection between your physical body and your energetic body and your mind. So those types of practices, when you put them through the day mindfully, are really, really life-changing, truly. Yeah, versus just waiting, like I said, until that one time where you meditate and then all goes out the window again, right?
Yes, and one of the reasons we moved to Panama was to be closer to nature. And I can tell you that in the last 4 weeks, we spend a lot of time outdoors on the beach. Even twice a day, we walk on the beach because we are living right on the beach. And recently, like 4 days ago, we hiked on top of a volcano. And it's different. And I had the chance to make offerings to the cloud forest, to make offerings to the volcano, just because I learned from the indigenous people that when you walk on new land, you really have to be grateful and thank for the opportunity to share the beauty with the spirit of the land. So I thought we're quite protected, and the climb up and climb down, the drive up, in fact, and the drive down were quite exciting and a little bit dangerous, but we were protected, and I had no worries that something wrong will happen to us.
Yeah, I get chills with that when you're saying, offering to the land, and it's a really sacred and beautiful experience. I just saw something from the Hopi tribe, which I really, really love their approach and their way of thinking. And it was the same sort of thing, talking about this time as being an evolution, because we've gone so far away from nature that humanity is going through this crisis basically, and we need to reconnect with nature and treat nature, not in water and dump stuff in the land, right? It's all, whatever is external to our environment is part of our internal environment. It goes back to that butterfly experience. We're all connected. Everything is one. There's no getting away from anyone else. We're really all in this. Which means we need to start respecting each other like that, and respecting the earth that way too. It's really powerful to think in those ways where you're actually connected to the environment that you walk on, right?
Yes, and an interesting interaction we had with our guide while walking through the cloud forest. When we reached the waterfall, we had an apple. And the guide had an apple, I had an apple, and I watched him closely because I wanted to see how he's going to dump that core, the apple core. What he's going to do with it? Is he going, because it's organic, he might just dump it in the forest, or I don't know. So I didn't do anything with mine until I watched what he did with his, and he put it in a plastic bag. And then he had this apple seed in his mouth and said, "Oh, I forgot about this one." And he picked it up and put it in the plastic bag. And then he explained to me, we don't want any foreign trees to grow in the cloud forest, because the apple tree or any other fruit tree is not native to the forest. So we try to keep it away. So for me, it was a very interesting lesson. Even I was expecting something like this, I got confirmation that they are really protecting the forest the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I get chills again on that. It's just really treating it as a sacred being, as a living, breathing entity. And it completely changes how you interact with nature, right? Like you wouldn't then toss something even as organic and lovely as an apple, or it's just that would be tainting it basically.
Exactly.
Not treating it with respect. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. I have another question. I think I know the answer, but I will ask it anyway. Do you have a spiritual teacher that you follow?
I have a few. I've learned so many different things over the years. Tracy L. Clark is the one that I see as my energy coach and my mentor. She's had a lot of different things happen in her life. She's had like 3 near-death experiences, I think. She's a fellow Canadian too. And a lot of my story from a emotional, energetic perspective actually overlaps with hers. So she's kind of like I call her, not usually to her face, but she's like my spiritual mom. She's a spiritual sister to others and friend to others. Like she's everything to so many people. I really love her approach, and she takes the approach of it's the God of your understanding. So you connect with whatever you feel, like with whatever label it is, but just connect, like whenever you can connect. And it's about you and that connection and nobody else or nothing else. And so I really ground myself in her in her teachings.
Nice. What's the ideal world you like your children to grow in?
Oh gosh, one I feel the shift of this already happening. As crazy and dark as things look, I feel like there's these wonderful, beautiful people, little people who are coming into this world who are so strong, strong-willed, who know that they have ownership over their body and nobody else. And I just see a world where people just have so much more respect for each other, that we're almost more like a instead of all separate individual little places. That we kind of get through this time and realize, like, wow, we're never going to let that happen again, because look how close we came to being so divided. At least in a large portion of the world, I'd like to think that's what's going to happen. But yeah, just realizing, okay, we could have gone that direction, but we choose love instead. We choose sovereignty instead. And that's what we're going to hold on to. And I've heard this from a number of people, that basically we could be shifting into more local economies and more local governship as well, instead of these big federal giants looking over everything. And I think that would be a really beautiful way to approach it, because there'd be likely more flow in between places, but there'd be more respect for what is happening locally in a microcosm, and then connected with the macrocosm. So I'd
Yes.
love to see that.
In fact, I'm aware of one small town in Mexico where the locals threw out the cartels and the government officials, because those were tainting the environment. I mean, social and physical and everything else. And they created their own kind of police or armed force. And you are more than welcome to come to the town if as a tourist or if you want to do business. But if you're a government or a gang member, you don't come closer, because they will just shoot you on sight. So in a way, that's radical, but at the same time, they maintain the health of the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's a great concept to expand on, really, is that it's like that tribe type of a thinking, right? You can communicate with other tribes and indigenous groups as they had in the past, but none of this like, okay, we're going to come in and everybody gets taught the same thing and then you have no choice about it, right? Yeah.
And I'm also aware of 2 or 3 communities in Ontario, which are putting themselves together. They have to, build homes and bring people over, and it takes a bit of time. And the drawback in Ontario and Canada in general is the weather, because you have 6-7 months of the year with cold climate, and it's hard to grow food unless you have a greenhouse, and it's a little bit more difficult and complex to survive there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I've thought of too. Whenever I intuit about, can we go yet? Think, what are the other options? Okay, greenhouse, but yeah, it's it's a climate thing too. Maybe we'll all, maybe most of the population will come into more, tropical climates.
We'll talk about that offline. So
Yeah.
I think that the time will come when we will really apply the knowledge and wisdom, as Hopi, you mentioned Hopi, and I know there is so much wisdom in the African tribes.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're also in Canada too with the recent news of the genocide against Indigenous people. There's now this collective grief and awakening around that, and all the teachings that have been suppressed for so long on these exact concepts of treating the earth with respect. And there's Father Sky and Mother Earth, and we respect them both and are connected to them both. And we're just here as provider, as tending to the land. We don't own the land. We're just here borrowing it and taking care of it. So all these, I think it's not a coincidence that all these different themes are happening all at once. It does really feel like a collective evolution.
Yeah. And I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk about water. As you know, I wrote about water, and most of my guests bring water forward in our discussion. And you had a post recently on your website. And also recently me and my wife started working with Hado technology, which is healing through water. Let's hear your take on this important element in our life, component of
Yeah. So I've used various types of water, like high pH water, like really alkaline water, really processed water. And my previous, the MD turned ND kind of mentor that I had, he would use water and build water. And then I had another mentor who used the same. But what I've come to understand is that, yes, it's important to filter the water because of the contamination levels of what we've done to it. But you need to breathe life back into it. So I really like to use certain minerals and make sure that the water has some life to it. I use different crystals and things like that around my water. I have a little like a little sticky note on our water vessel that says love, and I change it up every so often. But I really like to use the energetics of infusing the water. Again, being grateful. So when I have water, I try and just take a moment and just be grateful for the water, that it's nourishing every cell. I also have a little coaster that's a gemstone, so it's energetically aligning that way. So yeah, that's kind of my approach, is that we've unfortunately contaminated our sources so much. So we've got to do something to kind of clean it up first, but then you've got to try and get it back as much as possible to that living, breathing, moving, active, life-giving water.
Yes, thank you for your insight. Chelsea, we are approaching the end of the interview. Any final words?
I guess it would just be, I love the theme of what we fell into about the connection with the earth. And that really resonates too with my butterfly story we opened with, because it was that profound experience of, oh my gosh, we are like, I feel all this connection. I feel these people that I'm seeing come across my vision. I feel them. I am them. Just approaching life in the day-to-day as much as possible as you are part of everything and everything is part of you, and respecting one another for that, respecting everyone for their choice and their path, and pushing light into the evolution that we're in, or what I believe we're in, that we are in fact in this together, but not in the way they tell you. It's to reclaim ourselves and our sovereignty and do what feels right for you. And that's how we're all going to gain our freedom on a whole other level.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much once again for your time.
Mm-hmm.
And to my guests, thank you for watching. Please share this video, like it. visit my website and download a free copy of my first book, The Decadence of Our Souls. Support me on patreon.com/Claudiu Murgan. And until next time, love and gratitude.